Hey guys, Alifya here from Alifya Lifestyle and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be painting these beautiful dreamy watercolor peonies. They are these gorgeous flowers and I've been actually requested to paint peonies from a very long time now, so I thought let's do this today. Also, if you want to watch the extended version of this tutorial, so a lot more in-depth and more explanations and real time with, you know, like warm-up exercises and all of that fun stuff, be sure to check me out on Skillshare. You can also get a premium membership access that's free for 2 months, so the link is in the description. Also, as a bonus, the first 25 people can get to watch the class for free, so no sign-ups required. So if any of this interests you, make sure to check out my classes on Skillshare. Again, they're mentioned in the description. Alright, so for the materials, this is everything that I used. You will need some sort of paper towel or rag, a bowl. I only used 2 kinds of brushes for the entire painting, mainly this one right here. Again, I'm going to list everything in the description if you want to check that out. I used a tape. Again, this is an artist tape. Then for the paints, I'm using Arteza a palette set. Looks like this. I'm also using Arteza paper. It's a 9x12, but I like to cut mine. I cut mine into a 6x8, and it looks like this. It works pretty well. So yeah, I'm gonna list everything in the description. I decided to place my peonies in a glass mason jar looking vase. So I am lightly sketching out the jar here. I know this isn't in the reference pic, but I usually stray away from the reference pic anyway and add my own touches to it. So do not feel like you always have to copy your reference pic exactly. Add your own personal touches to it if you please. Here I am mapping out where I want my stems of the flowers to be. Looking at the reference pic, I'm roughly mapping out my peonies as well. I'm not going to be adding in too many details, just enough for me to understand my shapes and separate them to make it easier to paint. So I'm starting here with the big oval shape that we see of the main flower, and then those side falling petals, and then the middle center bowl shape to close it off. So all the details that you see in the center bowl, you don't really have to draw all those things. That can just come directly, you can just paint that directly. So I'll show you how to simplify that shape when it comes to painting. Alright, so I'm just getting ready to create my palettes for my flowers. So the first color will be a very light wash. So I'm mixing some orange and pink here to create this peachy color. My second palette is just a plain pink. And lastly, some pink, orange, and red for my brighter sections. So my very first layer is a very light wash of this peachy tone, just to add as a base layer. Be intentional of leaving white spaces to separate your shapes to avoid making your entire shape looking like a blob. These white spaces are very essential to not only add interest, but also for us to be able to separate the little shapes. Also, sorry for this little section being out of focus. It is sometimes really hard to film and paint at the same time, but I corrected it as soon as I noticed. I'm still using the peachy color, but with a bit more pigment this time, and adding that in a few places that I see. Looking at the reference pic, I can see that the middle section has all these little squiggly wavy lines. So using the tip of my brush, I am just gently painting those shapes loosely. Don't get caught up on every single detail that you see. Just get the impression of the overall shapes and add enough to make it look like a peony. Notice how I'm leaving the edges of my petals lighter because that is what I see in the reference pic. And to lift off paint, you can do that by simply dabbing your brush on your paper towel and then lifting off the paint on the section you want lighter. Okay, so now I'm going in with the pink and adding that to my flower to bring out some of the more pink tones that we see. This will add more depth to your painting and will also create different values. Here I'm just lifting off some of that paint to slightly soften up the edges. Okay, let's take a tiny break from the first flower and move on to the second one. I am going to be doing the exact same things and following the same steps that we did for the first peony. So working on it wet on dry, we are taking that light peachy color to add as our base layer. Looking at the reference pic and also making use of the sketch that I already laid out, I'm almost using this step as mapping out my flower shape, remembering to leave a lot of white spaces to separate the shapes. Here I'm intensifying the color a little bit and going in with a mixture of red and pink and just kind of dotting my way through it. Adding a bit of pink this time to bring out the color a little bit more. Adding some more pink to certain areas that I see and then lifting off the edges of any excess paint. Again, lifting off can only work if your paint is wet enough. So once it's dry, obviously you cannot lift off paint anymore. So just be careful of that. I'm taking a pause from the two main flowers and getting that little bud in the back. Painting buds are probably the most easiest when it comes to any kind of flowers. They can really be painted in only a few strokes. So think of making the alphabet C with your brush and then closing off the C in the opposite direction, leaving some white gaps in between. Okay, coming back to the front peonies, I wanted to get some of those deep colors that we see, so I'm using a purplish pink tone and adding a few bits of those in places. I'm going in with some red to give my flowers some last pop of color. Here I'm adding in some of those dark tones I see in the pic using some dark gray and pink, almost making like a very dark plum, a purplish color. I'm only adding it to 3 to 4 places by simply dotting my paper and then lifting the edges to blend the color. Alright, let's move right along the vase section, and I'm using some indigo and a bit of gray. I'm starting with a thin outline and then a very light wash to fill up the bottom half of the glass jar. While the paint is wet, I wanted to get the stems in so that it does blur out a little bit like it would underwater. So I'm using olive green here to paint these stems. Moving right along the leaves, I am just randomly placing these leaves wherever I think they look good and suit the composition best. Building on some of that color to the glass jar, but also I'm careful of not making it too dark because it is a glass jar, so I still want to keep it light overall. I switched to a fine detailed brush just to get in some little details on the glass jar using some black. Using a very light wash of indigo blue, I am giving my background a flat wash. Just a tiny little tint so that when I pull off the tape, it leaves a nice border. Going in with a little brighter green this time to add some highlights to my leaves, and then we'll also add a light wash of that color to the background to make all the colors flow together. Okay, so I'm gonna sign off this painting and take off the tape before we add in any last minute final details. It's always good to step back every now and then and look at your piece just to gain a fresh perspective. For my final details, I am adding a little stem to that little flower in the back, and then I'm just gonna go and add some few pops of dark sunlights to finish off this piece, and maybe add just a few little leaves in the background as well. I wanted to get a few splashes of pink to my flowers to add to that loose effect, but huge disclaimer, do not do this if you've taken off your tape, because there is a high possibility that it can splash onto the white border. I just took a risk here but managed somehow, but just make sure to do this step when your tape is on to prevent any accidents. So I just wanted some of those pinks and oranges to slightly pop a little bit more, so I'm just going back into my peonies and adding those. And we are all done. I really hope you all enjoyed today's loose watercolor peony flowers. To watch this extended real-time version of this video, be sure to check me out on Skillshare. Also, if you paint this, I would love to see it, so feel free to join my private Facebook group. Again, all the links are mentioned in the description. And lastly, if you enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for future art videos. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you very soon. Bye guys.